We're entering the second half of the program as Sweden and Germany are in a tie. So we're going to do our best to compress this program and get you back out to the game tonight. But as you follow along for the second half, please continue to expand the conversation by using the hashtag #ACAwards. As Horst Telchuk and Secretary Albright underscored in the first half, that as we celebrate courageous leaders who have stood for freedom over past decades, we must also remain focused on the important work ahead of us. You will hear shortly from two additional deserving honorees, the International Women's Media Foundation and the inspiring and talented Aryana Sayeed. But first, I want to draw your attention to the video screen. In partnership with Canada's Centre for International Governance Innovation, the Atlantic Council is launching an ambitious new initiative aimed at advancing peace, freedom, and prosperity, and advocating the changes that are needed to make these principles work in our time. After the video, Atlantic Council Executive Vice Chair and co-chair of this particular initiative, former National Security Advisor Stephen Hadley, will say a few more words on why this effort is so critical. Mr. Hadley, among the world's greatest strategists, himself has made quite a contribution to the cause of freedom. So let me direct your attention to the video screen.
We face a time of extraordinary challenges. For 7 decades, the world's democracies have relied on common principles to advance freedom, foster prosperity, and defend the security of our nations. The result has been a better life for millions, at home and around the world. But today, these principles are under attack from within and without. Stagnant wages and uneven trade benefits have left many people behind. Increased migration is fueling concerns about jobs and national identity. The rule of law is being challenged, and faith in our institutions has been shaken. Dictators around the world are undermining our values. They are meddling in our elections, interfering in the affairs of their neighbors, and threatening the world with terrorism and weapons of mass destruction, while oppressing their own people. There is a real danger that we could go back to a world where there are no rules, and where might makes right. Now is the time for us to act together. It's time to join with like-minded citizens at home and around the world and commit to common principles. Together, we have faced up to challenges like these before. If we work together, we can succeed again. It's time to stand up for freedom and defend our values. It's time to expand free markets and include those who have been left behind. It's time to reaffirm the strength and values of the free world, a rules-based world, our world, and make it work for everyone.
Good evening. It's a pleasure to be with you tonight. Our future security, prosperity, and peace will depend on our working together to revise and adapt and reinvigorate the international system in a way that responds to the geopolitical and internal challenges described in the film clip we've just seen. The key question will be, what are the common principles that should be the foundation of this 21st century international system? The effort that Damon Wilson has described and that is captured in the video we just saw is an attempt to answer this crucial question. And I'm honored to join Secretary Madeleine Albright, Prime Minister Carl Bildt, and former Japanese Foreign Minister Yuriko Kawaguchi in serving as a co-chair of this important and timely initiative. And we are pleased that Sipi Livni, Wolfgang Ischinger, and others who are part of this effort were able to join us in Berlin. Those of us who are committed to an international system that favors freedom and the rule of law must join together and take action to adapt, revitalize, and defend that system. Our effort already includes representatives from both the developed and the developing worlds, including countries like India, Indonesia, and Brazil. Our goal is to produce a declaration that outlines the fundamental principles of this rules-based system and sets forth the core beliefs and values that we are striving to uphold. But it is not sufficient for a group of foreign policy elites to engage with each other. To succeed, we must engage a skeptical public, listen to their concerns, and generate formulations of these principles that can gain broad support. For this reason, over the coming weeks, the Atlantic Council and our Canadian partner will launch an effort to reach out to and engage parliamentary and congressional officials, local and community leaders, the private sector, and especially our younger citizens, the next generation, on the principles that should be included in the Declaration. If we can secure adequate funding, we plan to use town hall sessions, roundtable events, a web-based crowdsourcing platform, and a proactive social media campaign to gain both input and ownership from a broader audience. Principles and declarations will not themselves bring results. Steps to implement the principles will be as important as the principles themselves. So we will seek to develop actionable strategies to encourage not only governments, but also business, universities, civil society, the voluntary sector, and empowered citizens to take concrete actions to defend these principles and advance a rules-based international system. Many such actions can be taken now without waiting for governments. At the same time, we want to encourage an inclusive international system, and we will seek to engage with other global powers, including China, who may not share in all of our principles, but who are willing to work cooperatively to advance those on which we can agree. This effort cannot succeed without a broad coalition from across our nations to advance our beliefs in fundamental freedoms and democracy, open and inclusive markets, shared values and human rights, and the rule of law. We hope you will join us. The success of such an effort may determine whether the international system descends into chaos and less benevolent actors fill the void, or emerges, revised and revitalized, to build a more stable and prosperous world for everyone. Thank you very much.
Please welcome Katie Harbeth, Facebooks Global Politics and Government Outreach Director. Bitte begrüßen Sie Katie Harbeth, Facebooks Global Politics and Government Outreach Director.
Good evening. I'm Katie Harbeth. Tonight I have the honor of introducing the third awardee of this evening, the International Women's Media Foundation. Before I start, can I just say how happy I am that it is, as Secretary Albright said, we are honoring the Girls Club tonight. For those of you who don't know about the IWMF, this is an incredible organization dedicated to ensuring that women journalists across the globe are supported, protected, and recognized. Their work spans across the globe from Latin America to the Great Lakes region of Africa. To give you an idea of some of the incredible scope and impact of their work, here are just some of the IWMF's accomplishments. Since 2014, the IWMF has trained more than 400 women, journalists worldwide, in hostile environment and first aid training to better prepare them for the potential scenarios they might find themselves in when reporting in dangerous places. The IWMF has supported more than 250 journalists as IWMF fellows, whose stories have raised awareness and reshaped the press narrative around a range of issues, including food security, women's empowerment, and conservation. And since 1990, the IWMF has awarded more than 100 women journalists with their annual Courage in Journalism Award to raise awareness of the struggles women journalists face in reporting from countries where threats, intimidation, and government oppression are common, and to honor the women who continue to demonstrate a commitment to press freedom despite these impediments. One of those journalists, Andrea Bruce, is here today. There is another less obvious reason that the work of the IWMF is so important, and that's one that I'm intimately familiar with my role at Facebook. I'm a firm believer that many of the crises of our time result from a disconnect between governments, businesses, and the media. In ensuring that the voices of women and other unrepresented groups are heard, the IWMF is also doing a great service to close the gap between these different organizations. Moreover, on a personal note, the first job I ever had was being a teen reporter for my hometown newspaper, the Green Bay Press-Gazette. I majored in journalism at UW-Madison, and while it's not the profession I ended up in, journalism is my first love. That's another reason why I'm in awe and grateful for the work that IWMF does. So please join me in a round of applause for Executive Director Elisa Muñoz, who will be accepting the award on behalf of the International Women's Media Foundation 2018 Atlantic Council Freedom Awardee. Thank you.
Thank you. It is truly a great honor to receive the Atlantic Council's Freedom Award on behalf of the International Women's Media Foundation. 30 years ago, the IWMF was founded on the principle that the press cannot truly be free without the equal voice of women. We stand by that statement today and challenge the traditional analysis of press freedom that disregards the persistent gender imbalance in the news media. The ability of women to work in and serve as leaders in the news media has broad societal implications. Sexual harassment, threats, attacks, government oppression, a stubborn glass ceiling, unequal pay, accusations of fake news, and a growing mistrust of the media all threaten press freedom around the world. And female journalists often bear the brunt of these attacks. Irina Bokova, Director General of UNESCO, has described it as a double attack. Women are being targeted both for being journalists and for being female. The IWMF enables women journalists to have the freedom to report the stories they choose and want to report. For many, this means a work environment that is free from harassment, where their ideas are welcomed, where they are paid equally, where policies do not penalize them for their gender, and where they have equal access to assignments and sources. To be balanced, outlets need a bench of reporters who reflect the diversity of people and topics they cover. Reporters are and must be versatile, but when most bylines are by men, audiences are not getting the full story or the insights that come from a lived experience. You can help. On World Press Freedom Day this year, we launched a campaign called #CheckYourBylines. We asked people to take note of the gender diversity in their news feeds. For example, in the April-May issues of The Atlantic, 6 out of 8 authors were women. In Foreign Affairs, only 3 of 29 authors were women. In Foreign Policy, 6 of 18 authors were women. And in The New Yorker, only 4 of 21 authors were women. In Europe, researchers who looked at reporters' bylines and the images accompanying stories found that in nearly every country in their study, across both print and digital, men wrote most of the content. A diversity of voices in the news media is needed to adequately report the complexities in our world. Of course, diversity is not only an issue of gender. To give a real-time example, it has been noted that the majority of journalists covering the situation on the Mexico-Texas border do not speak Spanish and are relying on security agents as translators and as sources. What is being missed and whose voices are not being heard? Imagine the stories that we missed when foreign bureaus in Afghanistan did not hire local females because it caused too many problems with their Afghani male staff. Or the voices left silent because, as one IWMF fellow has stated, sometimes it takes going through 6 men to be able to speak to one woman. In many countries, a male journalist speaking to females is simply impossible. Yesterday, Andrea Bruce told us about the image that she felt had the most impact. It was an image of a baby who died of hypothermia. She had access to that scene because she is a woman. However, it is not easy being a woman in the news media today, and the more you know about the peril they face to simply do their job, the more one must admire and honor them. The IWMS programs are specifically designed to address many of the challenges that they face. Recently, we have focused on providing opportunities to obtain bylines by organizing reporting trips in the Great Lakes region of Africa and Central America with a specific focus on ensuring diverse reporting in regions where the mainstream coverage is limited and often focused on the negative. We are one of few organizations that provides grants to female journalists to allow them to cover the stories they want, to address the situations where opportunities have been denied. There is one barrier, however, that inhibits women journalists more than any other. In the era of Me Too, I would be remiss not to mention the invasive impact of sexual and online harassment on the ability of all of us to receive balanced and free journalism. 2/3 of women journalists worldwide have been victims of harassment, according to our research, and an astounding 60% experience these attacks in their place of work. Who would have thought that a female journalist is in greater peril at the hands of her colleagues and supervisors than she is in the field? But the online world is where journalists experience most threats and attacks and intimidation today. According to IWMF research that will be published later this summer, 90% of respondents to our survey believe that online harassment is on the rise. Female respondents believe that their gender is the leading contributor. These experiences have a profound and long-lasting effect on journalists. At least 1/3 of respondents to our survey have symptoms similar to those of PTSD due to online harassment. The effects also run deep in the heart of the industry. 30% of respondents report practicing some form of self-censorship, and 29% have contemplated leaving the profession altogether. Attacks against female journalists are personal. They are often violent in tone and misogynistic, and they are driving people out of the profession, which should worry all of us. As I accept the 2018 Atlantic Council Freedom Award on behalf of the International Women's Media Foundation, I challenge each of you to help change the status quo. This is a room full of leaders and influencers. If each of you simply asks whether you're receiving balanced information by noticing the gender of your newsfeed and choosing to click on articles written by women, commenting to media outlets when you see a lack of diversity, and standing up for those you see being harassed online and in person, you will be part of the solution. As our friend and benefactor Howard Buffett has said, if there are people out there trying to shut women journalists up, let's make it hard for them. Thank you. Thank you.
Please welcome HuffPost Editor-in-Chief Lydia Polgreen. Bitte begrüßen Sie HuffPost Chefredakteurin Lydia Polgreen.
Last August, a talented and globally renowned artist had an idea. She would play a concert in her hometown, Kabul, to celebrate the Independence Day of her beloved country, Afghanistan. As you can imagine, concerts are a pretty rare occasion in Kabul, and this particular artist, with her sensuous dance moves and proudly feminist lyrics, was already living under the shadow of a fatwa from the Taliban. The authorities in Kabul urged her to cancel. They could not guarantee her safety, nor that of her fans. But to the surprise of precisely no one, Aryana Sayeed was not afraid. She refused to be intimidated. And that night, she treated more than 3,000 delirious fans to an unforgettable show. There is no greater expression of human dignity and freedom than making art, especially under the duress of war. Aryana Sayeed has been making art and celebrating beauty her whole life. She was born in Kabul to a Pashto-speaking father and a Dari-speaking mother, leaving her country at the age of 8 and settling in the UK. Her subsequent return several years ago convinced her of the need for change after seeing the treatment of women and children in her beloved country. Hearing Aryana's story for the first time, I felt a parallel to my own career. In my work as a journalist, I've witnessed firsthand the oppression of women's rights. I've seen people ostracized for their sexual orientation, and I have watched people be persecuted for their political beliefs. But I've also seen the powerful transformation that can take place when someone speaks out. I know it takes immense courage to be the first. To take a stand against any form of inequality means opening oneself up to criticism, threats, and both physical and abstract threats. Aryana has been subjected to all of this. Her dedication to her cause at times meant that she had to trade dresses for flak jackets and fan clubs for bodyguards. Yet she's chosen to persevere, dedicating her music career to gender equality in Afghanistan. Her songs, sung in both Dari and Pashto, which is unusual for Afghan artists, are accessible to everyone regardless of their ethnic identity. And her music videos, including I Am a Woman and Champion, have racked up millions of views, all with a core message of women's empowerment. Even as she gains international fame, Aryana's never forgotten her roots and her commitment to the country of her birth. Acting as a mentor to girls who look to her for inspiration, she has supported dozens of young aspiring artists. For these reasons and many more, please join me in a round of applause for Ms. Aryana Sayeed, the 2018 Atlantic Council Freedom Awardee.
Thank you, dear Lydia. Before everything else, I just want to say to the little beautiful girl in there, Bana, with your speech tonight, you truly touched my heart. And I was actually crying. My makeup artist tonight, funny enough, she actually told me to put fake lashes on my eyes, and I was crying and I was scared that I hope my lashes don't come out. You actually reminded me of my own story when I was in Afghanistan, and I was about eight years old when a rocket actually landed in our house. It hit our house while we were sleeping in the middle of the night. And the rocket luckily landed on a big, gigantic tree which was in our garden, and that tree actually saved our lives. But I still live with that trauma from my childhood, and it's never forgotten. But anyhow, now I will start with my speech. Respected guests of honor, dear colleagues at Atlantic Council, my dear friends and family, ladies and gentlemen. As a woman from Afghanistan, and that too being a female artist, from a country where not so long ago, music was completely banned, I feel extremely honored and blessed to be standing here right now. When my manager notified me of the fact that we were contacted by a prestigious organization such as the Atlantic Council, and I was being considered as a nominee for Freedom Award, and that too in the company of such respected and honorable international leaders such as Madeleine Albright and my other fellow nominees, it was a bit of a shock to me. And of course, a good type of shock that was. I will make a small confession here tonight. Shortly after hearing the news, I had tears in my eyes. Of course, they were tears of joy, but in addition, they were tears of triumph, as the voice of an Afghan woman was finally heard, and heard in a manner that was beyond my imagination. I hear this quite often about how brave I am, how daring and so courageous, but I want you and the rest of the world to know tonight that my courage does not come from me, but actually from the champion women of Afghanistan who, despite hardship and despair, still continue to struggle and fight on. Back in 2011, while I was on the plane returning to Afghanistan for the first time after leaving as a child, I'll be honest and admit that I was scared and very, very nervous. I was leaving the comfort of a peaceful life and not having the fear of potentially getting killed only so through my art and music, I could bring a smile to the beautiful faces of my people and some joy to their hearts. I was actually flying into a war zone. A place where even if you're not a target, you could still accidentally get killed by being in the wrong place at the wrong time. Many of you may find this funny and interesting, but I actually accepted to perform a concert in Afghanistan for the first time without even getting paid, and that continues to be the case for me till this day for all my concert performances there. My first ever trip from the airport to my hotel in Kabul was extremely emotional and heartbreaking. All I could see through the windows of my car was a broken land, dust, destruction, sadness, and misery. I could barely see a smile on anyone's face, and the sight of many children, both boys and girls, and women, begging on the street while holding their babies brought tears to my eyes. For a moment, even I almost became hopeless. But then I experienced something that I did not expect myself. During my concert in Kabul, when I stepped out on the stage, the joyful screams, the big smiles, and the mere energy, it literally was the most amazing experience as much for me as much as it was for them. What gave me more hope was the presence of some women in the audience as well. Yes, not so many of them, but a few brave and strong ones were there to show their love and support to me. That was only the beginning of a long-term relationship with the land I was born in for many years to come. The fact that the TV station received a warning letter after the concert was broadcasted is another story that we'll not discuss tonight. Since then, I have been threatened to death, protested against, had fatwas or religious decrees passed against me, one of them even asking for my head to be cut off, faced much resistance and opposition, yet I have experienced much more love and support from the normal people for every step I have taken. While Afghanistan continues to be the land where radicalism and extremism have survived, the path taken by most of the new generation towards education and prosperity definitely provides a ray of hope for a brighter future. Trust me, if I did not have the support of a majority of my people, I would not have survived and thrived for my current position today. While taking this opportunity, I would like to communicate to the world out there that there is still hope for Afghanistan. The fact that I, as an Afghan female artist and as a human and women's rights activist, can step in the middle of a football field in Kabul and perform in front of thousands in the city where not so long ago, women were viciously executed by being shot in the head on the very same field is a clear indication that progress is being made, slowly but surely. Today, thousands of girls are able to pursue education in Afghanistan, while not so long ago, girls were completely banned from schools. I hope together we can empower the rest of the country so in not so distant future, everyone can pursue education, which is the basic human right and requirement. To my people, to the Afghan population around the world, I urge you to remain united so as one we can help rebuild our motherland. And lastly, I want to dedicate this award to two beautiful young women, Farkhunda, who was beaten by a vicious crowd, burned and murdered because she spoke against superstitions and dark-minded. And Rukhshana, the beautiful young lady who was stoned to death only because she had fallen in love. And to all the Farkhundas and Rukhshanas in Afghanistan whose voice we do not hear and whose stories we do not see on the news. I would like to thank the Atlantic Council for this outstanding recognition. Also, I would like to congratulate my fellow nominees, in whose mighty company I feel extremely honored. Thanks to my family and my friends over there, and those involved in my artistic life, especially my amazing songwriter, Suleiman Didar, and my amazing band, on whose behalf my drummer, Erdem, is here. and also to the one person without whose support I could never reach to where I am today, my partner in crime, my manager, Aryana Sayeed. Honestly, you've taught me so much about life, and you have helped me grow as a person and find a purpose in life. Thank you for putting up with me all these years. I would like to thank the Afghan population worldwide, especially the champion women of Afghanistan, without whose constant love and support, I would not be standing here today. While accepting this award, I hereby take an oath and make a promise that as long as there's life in me, I'll fight for you and I will raise your voice till my last breath. نباشم هستی نایاب تو کو وجود مردهای ناب تو کو اگر روداب حامل نبودم محمد رستم و سهراب تو کو یلو پیغمبرم رازادگر هستم زن هستم من زن هستم من زن هستم. Thank you so much. Thank you. For those of you who obviously don't speak and understand Farsi, these were the few lines that I just sang in Farsi for you guys, and I would like to translate that so you can get a bit of an idea what this was about. So it says, if I didn't exist, where would your unique existence be? Where would be the existence of your rare men? If it wasn't for Rodaba and Amina, where would be your Muhammad, Rustam, and Sohrab? I am the one who gave birth to your heroes and prophets. Yes, I'm a woman, I'm a woman, I am a woman. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that amazing gift to all of us, which we hadn't expected. And so what a wonderful voice, what a wonderful story, what an inspirational evening. If I could ask all the awardees and the introducers and speakers to please come to the stage for a family photo, and if you could applaud them all as they come up there, and please join us for the next Freedom Awards. Thank you so much for coming.